Votes are still being counted, Alaska, Arizona, and Nevada, but Donald Trump surpassed the 270 electoral votes needed to win the 2024 presidential election. Now with 292 to Kamala Harris's 226. To say that this was a one-of-a-kind election is not hyperbole. From assassination attempts to the 11th hour dropping out of the candidate originally at the top of the Democratic ticket, this was one for the record books. But it was also unique in the way Christians responded and rose to the occasion, both in prayer and in action. Now, the question is, what comes next? Joining me to look back and to look forward is my battle buddy on the West Coast, Pastor Jack Hibbs, senior pastor of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and founder and president of Real Life Ministries. Pastor Jack, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Tony, thank you. Absolutely a marvelous night last night, and it continues.
Well, I want to thank you for partnering with Family Research Council. Real Life Network joined with us in last night's broadcast covering the election returns and discussing it from a biblical perspective. It was a phenomenal evening of programming. Let me ask you this, because we stopped about 12:30 this morning, and so at least Eastern time, it was early out there, your time. But the results were not all in. Anything surprise you in terms of the results?
Well, for one thing, California, as usual, is still counting, and that's the norm. However, if we look at it closely, and we're breaking it down right now, the California vote, though it didn't go 100% the way that we wanted, it went very strongly to the support of the House to keep Mike Johnson employed there as Speaker of the House. We are very delighted and very satisfied with California's response to this election. And it also gives us, Tony, a great addition to our strategy. We know when you break down the counties of California, they're red, but it's the inner city. And so from here on out, Tony, we are going to be really targeting the inner city and reaching those with a logical, sensible vote. So, we could go on the whole day, but I'm really blown away. A comment made online on Instagram where it was made, and I'll repeat, we have won the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the popular vote mandate, and the entire country that wants to clean up our borders, our election, and the deportation of those here that are illegal, and to hold corrupt politicians accountable, close quote. We are even seeing that here in California. Tony, for example, District Attorney, the infamous George Gascon in L.A., he was fired last night, and a whole host of very liberal district attorneys in California, they were fired. A lot of people were given their walking papers in our state last night. And then finally this, we had this horrible bit of legislation passed several years ago, Proposition 47, that basically let you steal and rob up to $950. You could walk free with it. And lo and behold, last night, Proposition 36 was passed, and it gives law enforcement power, and it's going to give judges and attorneys strength to prosecute crime. And so we're going in the right direction in California. We're excited.
Let's talk about the role of the church in that. Now, we talked about this last night, the Pray Vote Stand Decision 2024, that in your church, California, it's legal to do ballot collection. And so that's the left wanted this, and you used it, and so they're probably going to make it illegal now again, because it worked for literally. I think it's going to turn a couple of these congressional seats. But you collected nearly 20,000 ballots at your church. What motivated people to get engaged? We're talking about SageCon, spiritually active, governance-engaged conservatives. What motivated them at that level?
Let me be clear. I can answer this to some degree, but Tony, the part that I cannot answer is that we actually also hosted drive-up ballot returns, drive-up. So that means there's a bunch of ballots that came in from people who just live in the region, right? And they brought their ballots and they put them in the secured box without even leaving their car. it is legal in California. Having said that, what motivated, you got to remember, we're in Southern California. We see things that a lot of the states don't see. So people are fed up. Democrats and Republicans were fed up of the lawlessness and of the fact that we are being overrun by illegal aliens. And the threatening part, Tony, is some of them are usurping their really unsanctioned authority. They're strutting around and they're going into abandoned homes and they're basically taking over. And I got to tell you, there's been an overwhelming response. And sin can only go so far. Right. Sin cannot manage itself, and California has overplayed its hand in the area of being stupid.
That's right. Sin does not know boundaries, and it continues to march forward. So let's talk about going forward in this. The role of the church. All right, you have the Freedom from Religion Foundation and all those groups kind of breathing down your back.
Yeah.
But we talked about this last night about the role of the church is not to be of government, but it should be in government. We should be involved. We should have a prophetic voice. What does that look like? We have, we were very candid about this. We weren't crazy about some of the positions that the Republican Party took on the life issues, kind of moving back from some of the strong language. But when you looked at the choice, it really wasn't a choice. We had only one way to go because of the outspoken nature of Harris and the Democratic Party wanting to kill babies. So how do you navigate that? Some people say, well, you shouldn't say anything bad. You just should vote and tell people to vote. I think we have to have a prophetic voice speaking into government while at the same time voting for those who are most closely aligned to that biblical truth. What do you say?
Yeah, Tony, this is going to sound maybe a little strange for some of your viewers right now, but for us, you're asking me and in this ministry and the ministries now over the years that we're standing on the fringe watching us, and the wake of every cycle, remember every 2 years, every 4 years presidential, we have been gaining so much ground that now it's pulled in. This time in California, we saw more churches, more pastors, more Christians get involved. And so here's what we're going to do, Tony. We're going to keep going exactly how we've been going because it is working. And I will not be surprised if California now wants to repeal their own idea of ballot harvesting, ballot collection, because it has been overwhelming. My goodness, Mike Garcia, again, these Young Kim, Michelle Steele, Daryl Issa, and more, again, winning. And so we took a really bad idea, we circumcised it, dedicated it to the Lord, kept it extremely legal, and has been a major impact. So Tony, we're going to keep going straight ahead because it's working. We're going to let this wave build and continue on, listen, until the Lord calls me home. And then that's to the next generation to carry on. But I tell you, we are thrilled.
What you're describing, you're using the process to encourage Christians to vote, but at the same time, you're talking about the issues. You're not pulling any punches on the issues. You're telling them to vote biblical values. I mean, you're calling the church, and we know that you have many candidates that have emerged from your church, to have that prophetic voice in government.
It's absolutely true. And here's the bottom line. Because God has made us the way that he has, we long for leadership and we long for the truth. God is stirring our hearts. And when a believer understands, wait a minute, this person's running for mayor. For example, the mayor goes to our church. She won last night, I think, 74%. That kind of stuff. When you see that happening, people want to do the right thing when the right thing's been put in their heart. Pastors need to give the word of God, make disciples, right? After people are saved, we don't drop them off. That's when we go to work to make them disciples. And being part of a disciple is not only teaching, your kids the word of God, but it's also getting involved in this remarkable republic that the Lord has given us. And we take that very seriously here. And we are rejoicing in California that we just saw some 1,200 churches step up, do voter registration, ballot collection up and down the state of California. And it's just beginning here.
Before we know it, California will be a red state again.
You watch and see.
Pastor Jack Hibbs, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us. And again, thanks for being a part of last night's election results coverage.
Tony, thank you. It was a part of history that we'll never forget. Glad to be with you.